See, time never was when man was not. How can you kill something that's everlasting, you feel me? You know what I'm saying? And I'm timeless, nigga. Y'all know what time it is, I personify this shit.
If it's my destiny to live, I breathe for the streets. If it's my destiny to die, then just remember me. Cause trill niggas return and we personify. Cause trill niggas return and we personify. If it's my destiny to live, I breathe for the streets. If it's my destiny to die, then just remember me. Cause trill niggas return and we personify. Cause trill niggas return and we personify. Hollow proof, so I don't possess a vest. I know you cowards are breathing threats in every breath. So many gasping for glory, forging these soldier stories. But I'm mercenary by blood, thugging until I'm buried. I've been AWOL since Parkin' Big was assassinated. Stayed on my toes with multiple clips for secret agents. Often they casing my block, knowing this beast is lurking. Illegal searching for rocks, but that's just half the purpose. They plot to poison my DNA in a subtle way. With silent weapons for quiet wars, they test my fate. Because I'm living Islamic, will I be forced to ever see on my gallows a war zone? But it's now or never, but it's now or never. If it's my destiny to live, I breathe for the streets. If it's my destiny to die, then just remember me. Cause trill niggas return and we personify. Cause trill niggas return and we personify. If it's my destiny to live, I breathe for the streets. If it's my destiny to die, then just remember me. Cause trill niggas return and we personify. Cause trill niggas return. This battle's forever. You pastors and pagans are devils, suppressing rebels, fearing repercussions from Pharaoh. But I keep it thorough. Souls are priceless because greed is the motive of many. Sunday morning collection plates, cop the rebels Bentley. After service, he strapped with keys, but not to the gates of heaven. So I curse him rather than bless him with my Smith and Wesson to serve my peoples to build. But if I must destroy, then I'll employ every effort. Call me the real McCoy. Cause I'm removing these obstacles with cop issues, addressing killers with cock pistols when Glock scissor. Talent scream while being born, cause death is delivered. If I fall victim, it'll be sacrificial. If it's my destiny to live, I breathe for the streets. If it's my destiny to die, then just remember me. Cause trill niggas return and we personify. Cause trill niggas return and we personify. If it's my destiny to live, I breathe for the streets. If it's my destiny to die, then just remember me. Cause trill niggas return and we personify. Cause trill niggas return and we personify.
Yeah. Welcome to the Lion's Den. Welcome to the Den. That was Kemetian at that pair of fine, bringing that heat to the den. We personify the trio brothers. You know what I'm saying? When we return, you know what I'm saying? Welcome to the Den. Welcome to the Den. How you doing, Sister Karima?
Doing lovely. How you doing? How you doing? How you doing, Kemetian? I'm ready. I'm ready.
I'm sorry, bro. I couldn't hear you because you had an echo.
I was greeting. I said Shalom Shabbat Alahayim.
Shalom Shabbat Alahayim. And I also say Yahweh Bashim. Yahweh Shah Barakatah. Kwam Yashah. Islam, all that.
All that there.
Yeah. Yeah, man. There's been some things going on in these YouTube streets, man, that we just gotta address. I want to congratulate the brother. Today is his 43rd earthly return. Solo return. That's right. The brother's made it to the big 4-3, which equals 7. Congratulations, Kemetian.
We definitely on the manifest, man. You know, unfolding. It ain't strange because that 7 is what unites us. You know, so all is well, family.
Right. Also, I'd like to congratulate you. Go ahead, Sister Karima.
It's his birthday.
Thank you, Sister Karima.
Yeah, happy birthday.
Yeah, he almost made it be a Virgo with us, man. He on that Libra side. That's all right. We closely connected. Anyway, I also want to congratulate you, brother, on the on your 3-0 victory over Smash Rockwell in the preliminary. Now that was a preliminary discussion, but from what I observed and watched, it was 3-0. It wasn't even close. So Smash, I hope when you trying to come over here to take this Lions Den belt, you do better than what you did in the preliminary. Of course, I will not be judging that when it happens. But representative from your side and a representative from over here, those two will get together and they will pick the judges for a championship bout like that. We will have 5 judges, 5, like we used to back in the day. You know what I'm saying? But Kamisha, go ahead and let everybody know what you got on the manifest right now, Aki. Oh, Karima, can you put the link? Is there tell everybody where they can find this and tell everybody what's going on with the channel real quick, and then we can get it to Kamisha's demonstration. Karima, go ahead.
Go ahead. Yeah, so we doing a little maintenance, cleaning up. So we got another channel. Hopefully y'all can subscribe to it, find it easily. But right now we working through Black Beauty Inc. on Facebook, and we working through Lions Den Headquarters Facebook group, and we working through the Lions Den until we can get the YouTube channel running. We do have a YouTube channel. It will be running tomorrow under the same name. So the link will be in the chat, and it will be on the Lions Den channel if you familiar with the Lions Den channel, and anywhere. It's going to be everywhere.
All right. Yeah, we under reconstruction again. You know, some of the people behind the scenes, you know, they didn't work out, so we got to just do what we got to do. You know, you think people close to you and been building with you the whole time, all they're doing is waiting for opportunity to tear things down. It's a sad situation, but ain't no stopping us. You know what I'm saying? Ain't no stopping the Lions Den. The name alone strikes fear in debaters' hearts. The name alone has Sarnetta sweating in his sleep. You see what I'm saying? Look how Kamisha has to look at the camera like, God damn, that's got him sweating in his sleep, Kamisha. When you hear the name Lions Den and guys coming up out of the den like Kamisha, 7,000s and them type of guys. You know, Black Jesus ministers and, things of that nature. Unstoppable forces of nature. But go ahead, Kamisha, let the world know what you got going, man. Like I say, once again, happy birthday, man. Also, congratulations. Hey, Smash, you got to do a little bit better than what you did tonight. If you're trying to come against Kamisha, man. I told you he one of the coldest adapt hair fonts we have in this community. All right, Aki, go ahead.
Oh yeah. Yes, sir. Yeah, we got a couple of grand drawings we want to bring to the manifest. And before we go in, I want to show our family something that a lot of our people don't know. Just basic things before we go into this special drawing that we getting ready to go into. Because it's very important that our people understand, where we coming from.
1,000 partners, Kamisha. Can you put this link in the chat, Karima, so I can jump on from my other phone? This one about to die.
Yeah, I got you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Yes, sir. So what we gonna do while our brother getting back in here, I'm gonna share my screen real quick. So we want to make this very plain. We want to make this very plain to our family. And Sister Karima, can you see this?
Clear.
Okay, thank you. And let me show our family this right here, right? Now, if you come here, our brother Walter Williams whooped Reggie, when he pulled up the American Heritage Dictionary. And he proved to Reggie that hieroglyphics have to do with something that's undecipherable. Now, this is a modern definition out of the dictionary right here itself. This is just from the dictionary now. Listen to what it says. Hieroglyphic, right? writing consisting of hieroglyphs, right? Without the Rosetta Stone, it is likely that the Egyptian hieroglyphs would still be a mystery, right? Now look at what they give. It says symbols, signs, ciphers, code, cryptograms, cryptographs, and runes. We already know that cryptograms and cryptographs deal with things that hide things, right?
Right.
So the key is if they're saying here without the Rosetta Stone, it's likely that the Egyptian hieroglyphs will still be a mystery. This is the death blow from the beginning. Because we got to remember now, the Rosetta Stone, and I'm going to pull it up. Before we go into this, want to set this out here before we even get here. Want to make this plain, want to make sure the people see this so they understand. This is what they call their famed Rosetta Stone right here, right? Hold up, let me close that out right there. It's trying to go into another link. I'm going to just blow it up and move my screen to the side right here.
Okay.
And so y'all can see it. Okay, give me 1 second. Well, better yet, you know what? I can just probably click on it. And then I can just open it up. I'm pretty sure they probably already have what I need there. So let me do that then. Just give 1 second to load up. It's very important that our family see this. All right, loading up. We loading up. Okay, that's good right there. I want to see if I can scroll to get that black and white copy. If not, we'll use that one right there. Okay, this one right here look pretty close enough as well. I want to get the whole stone though. Let's see. They're just showing portions of it. So we'll do it like that too. We can do it that way and still blow it up and expand the screen. So now look what you have here.
That's the Rosetta Stone, huh?
This is the Rosetta Stone, right?
Oh my God. All right.
The Rosetta Stone dates to 196 BCE, the Ptolemaic period, right? This
What
is in
year was that?
This is 196 BCE, which is BC, 196 BC, before Christ, right?
Right.
So these are the symbols that they have here. Unfortunately, this stone was not cast by the ancient Egyptians.
Right.
It was cast by the Ptolemies. And this is what I'm trying to get these guys to
All
understand.
right. Now, what's on that? What's on there? Ptolemy symbols or what?
I'm going to go into it right now. These are Ptolemaic hieroglyphs.
This is a damn shame. All right.
That was written under the direction of Ptolemy, right?
Yeah.
Now, under this, they have what they call the demotic script, which is a dead giveaway that this is not an ancient stone. Because demotic was said to come into existence maybe around 800, 600 BC, right?
Right.
So if that is the case, this was before the time the Ptolemies come in, but the demotic script would have definitely been on the manifest by the time they got. They were the ones that actually dictated that these things be wrote. They didn't write them themselves. They made the native Egyptians who was there write. Now down here at the bottom of the stone, this is supposed to be so-called quote-unquote Greek, right? You know what we say about the so-called Greekism. We know that comes later.
Yeah, it's not really Greek.
It's not really Greek. But the main thing is this stone was created by the Ptolemies. They saying that the metal netta, you know, would have never been deciphered if it wasn't for the Rosetta Stone. I say the metal netta still hasn't been deciphered even after the Rosetta Stone.
Right, because the Rosetta Stone don't even correlate with the ancient symbols they got on the wall. So how you gonna use the new stuff? Yeah, they weren't part of the priesthood. They weren't initiated.
That's what I'm saying.
It's like if you build a washer and dryer in the 1930s, there's gonna be a schematic on the back for the repairman to look to see where the wires and different things need to go.
It's different.
Now you can't use that same schematic in 2022 and try to fix one of these newer washer and dryers. It ain't gonna work.
And I'm gonna show you what they call that in a minute when you try to do that.
Yeah,
it's really
common sense. You gotta have schematic. Correct. You gotta be initiated. You gotta be initiated with what the schematic means. You gotta be tied with what these symbols mean.
That's right. It's called reverse initiation. reverse engineer concept. And so what I'm saying is, if this stuff right here had already been during ancient Egypt, it would be easier to believe.
Right.
But being that this demonstration came long after Egypt and nobody could even speak the language at that time, what make you think now this is Rosetta Stone coming up, but Champollion came hundreds of years after this? You see? He came hundreds of years after this.
After what? The demonic?
And he say he corrupt the code, so they say, right?
Right.
Now watch this. This is where I'm gonna expose them at, Judah. Now listen to this carefully. I want to deal with the word hieroglyphic. We just showed you hieroglyphic, in one aspect of what it deals with, and they mentioned the Rosetta Stone, right?
Right.
I want to show you something else about this word hieroglyphic.
Okay.
Hieroglyphic, script has to do with something again that is. Let me open up this definition here. If you look here, they have a strict meaning for these words, right? And they tell you that hieroglyphic scripts were no longer used here. Give me one more drawing here. One more second. Now notice they say, let me blow it up a little bit. Egyptian hieroglyphs were the formal writing system used in ancient Egypt, used for writing Egyptian language, right? This is what they say, right?
Right.
It says hieroglyphs combine logographic, syllabic, alphabetic elements, some 1,000 distinct characters. Then they say cursive hieroglyphs were used for religious literature on papyri and wood. Later, hieratic and Demotic Egyptian scripts were derived from hieroglyphic writing as the Proto-Sinaitic script. You see all this foolishness they got up here, right? This is the way that they are going about it. And this is why they think somebody is crazy by telling them.
Wait a minute. They said something about cursive. Now go over that part. What the hell are they talking about?
Well, when they say cursive hieroglyphs, I'm going to get into that in the actual bill in a minute. But cursive hieroglyphs is nothing more than pictorial glyphs that's basically wrote in a stick man form. We can say an underdeveloped form, which I'm going to point them out in a minute. I'm going to show you what cursive hieroglyphics mean. You see?
I mean, you talked about it. I was just doing that for the audience.
Right. You know what I mean? And so what we find out about this concept of hieroglyphics, family, in translations and more definitions, look at what it says here. It says enigmatic or incomprehensible symbols of writing. This is why, brother, what his name said that the hieroglyphics can be, translated, because they are incomprehensible symbols of writing.
Incomprehensible meaning the person looking at them, if you're not initiated to what in that class of what these symbols mean, it's incomprehensible. You can't turn that into an alphabet. That'd be like this owl may mean a good seer or something, and then in a different school, the owl may mean, I don't know, a night vision, a night stalker, whatever.
Right. Now this is
a different school of thought. They had different school of thought, so how can that symbol mean the same in every goddamn dynasty?
Now this is what our brother, what his name, hit Reggie with. Reggie say the dictionary symbol is changed. It says hieroglyphic, of or relating to being a system of writing of that of ancient Egypt, in which pictorial symbols are used to represent meaning or sounds or combination of meaning and sound. Written with such symbols, difficult to read or decipher, right?
Difficult to read. Say that again.
This
difficult to read or decipher.
But you ain't seen nothing yet.
So
it says a hieroglyph.
Right.
It says
so
often hieroglyphs. Watch this, Jude. Watch this. It says often hieroglyphics used with a singular or plural verb, hieroglyphic writing, especially that of the ancient Egyptians, something that is such as illegible, undecipherable writing that is felt to resemble a hieroglyph. So if it's undecipherable, the word illegible, if you know what that means in legal terminology, an illegible motion to get thrown out of the courts. Even though you're writing it in English language, so to speak, if it's illegible according to the terms or the way that it's structured, they consider it illegible and what they call a false motion. And they'll throw your motion out, even though you speak in the English language. So now, if you're looking at a language that's illegible, let's go and show you what this is. They said undecipherable, right? That means that it can't be deciphered.
Right.
Now, Brother Walter Williams said he called in, and I want to say it was to the same people that wrote this book that I was quoting from. Not clear enough to be read. Illegible. See that there? Indecipherable, unreadable, unintelligible. Huh? Hieroglyphic. Look at that. See that? Obscure. Come on, man. You see that, Judah?
I see it.
Unreadable. Now, this is what the word hieroglyphic means. Now, I'm
Wait a
going
minute.
to show you.
Unreadable.
Unreadable.
Wait a minute. Wait, unreadable. How the hell y'all? We reading the hieroglyph.
That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Okay, now what's that source that's saying that again?
That's the American Heritage. This is the Oxford Dictionary that's branched off. Yeah, that's illegible. And it's crazy because we put the word illegible up here and it put the word hieroglyphic right there.
Damn.
We ain't asked about hieroglyphic.
We ain't asked about hieroglyphic.
Yeah, indecipherable, unintelligible. Come on, man. Scribbled, crabbed, obscure. And then they go into the aspect of clear as mud. That means if you put mud on something, you know good and well you can't see it. You see what I'm saying? It's muddy. So now watch this. This is what we lay in the foundation with. So we see hieroglyphic mean undecipherable. But Judah, did you know that the word hieroglyph was used and applied to a document before the so-called decipherment even took place?
Say that one more time.
Do you know that the word hieroglyph was used before Champollion supposedly deciphered anything? That this word hieroglyphic was in use.
I do not.
Watch this. This is from the book known as Time and Enlightenment. Can you see this that I'm sharing my screen with?
Yeah.
This is the book, Time. It says of enlightenment, right?
Yeah.
And it says it was this ability of visual signs to entail multiple things along with their ability directly represent those things that led Quinsnay and Marebu to relate Tabilu to one of the paradigmatic visual languages in the Enlightenment debates on representation. On numerous occasions, Quinsnay and Marebu referred to tablets as hieroglyphics. This is a book they refer to that has to do with something that was on the manifest before the so-called decipherment, but they refer to this particular work as the hieroglyphics, right? It says ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs had not yet been deciphered in the 18th century, and calling something a hieroglyphy could have implied that it was in need of deciphering. Goodness gracious. Okay.
Goodness gracious.
Now this is before the so-called decipherment, right?
Right.
We're gonna say this again. Ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs had not yet been deciphered when they was applying this term hieroglyphs, right? It says ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs had not yet been deciphered in the 18th century, and calling something a hieroglyphy could have implied that it was in need of deciphering. Don't that go along with the definition that I use?
Yeah.
That it cannot be deciphered. In need of decipherment. It says the physiocrats did on occasion employ this common connotation of the term, especially Mirabeau, whom the tableau always seemed difficult to understand. So anything that was difficult to understand was understood under the measure dealing with hieroglyphic. It says on rare occasion that scholars have commented on the fact that Quasnay and Marebu called tableau a hieroglyph. They have only interpreted this as meaning two were aware that the tableau needed deciphering. So before this became the definition of a word for languages, this was dealing with something that needed to be deciphered. So when you call something hieroglyphic, you saying it needs to be deciphered, not it has.
But that's what they say. But that's what they say. We decipher the hieroglyph.
Yeah, but I'm saying it's showing that it's in need. The true definition of the word hieroglyph, it means it is in need of deciphering. You see? So how can you say it's been deciphered if it's in need of being deciphered? You understand? If the true definition of the word hieroglyph,
it's saying it need to be deciphered by the ones who's, in the school of thought to understand the hieroglyph. That's my take. What do you mean by that? What do you get from that?
Basically, like I said, it's saying that the way they use this word before they ever tried to deal with some deciphering of a hieroglyph, they applied this term to something that needed to be deciphered. So the word hieroglyph itself means something that needs to be deciphered. Just like it said in the dictionary definition, it's indecipherable or undecipherable. It cannot be deciphered. So this is just giving weight to what I read from the definition, right? It says,
however, it can only be deciphered by people who understand what the symbols mean.
Right. That's what I'm trying to tell you. And they don't understand what it means. So how can they come in and say they decipher?
They don't know what the hell they're looking at.
There you go. And I'm finna get something weightier than this. I'm just showing you that this word hieroglyphics was used before they ever deciphered, as they call it, the metal letter, so they say, right?
Right.
So if this word meant undecipherable or something that was in need of being deciphered, how can you say a hieroglyphic has been deciphered if the very word originally meant something undeciphered?
And Kemetian, why do keep saying, yeah, we already dealt with this with Seti and destroyed him? The brother didn't show up probably because his pay wasn't right.
Watch this.
It ain't got nothing to do with nobody running from. I bet you probably got paid off. It ain't got nothing to do with he ran from the debate because they were playing. I believe they were going to destroy that shit.
Right.
So they went and did their own little show about it. Remember?
Right.
Their own little pay-per-view.
Right. Now let me show you. I'm gonna show you the body bag on this right here, Judah. That's just to get them warmed up for what I really got to give. Yeah. Now check this out, now, Judah. Here go the source too. For those who want the source, I just read this. This was my last thing I read on Sarnetta. This is called the Theology of Hathor, Het-Heru. That's the goddess Het-Heru of Dendera, right? It says a rule in visual scribal techniques in the Per-Wir, right? Sanctuary. Barbara A. Rich. Watch what it said. This is from the book now. Listen to what they said. Mm-hmm. It says, it is to be noted here. Let me blow this up. It is to be noted here that no Greek or Latin author of non-Egyptian origin ever took the trouble to learn Egyptian. We want to make that clear off the rip.
Say that one more time.
Yeah, we're going to say it again. It is to be noted here that no Greek or Latin author of non-Egyptian origin ever took the trouble to learn Egyptian.
Dang, that's a whole head cut off and kicked down a goddamn street.
Down the street. Now watch this. It get worse, Judah. It says the various reports about the hieroglyphs, which prove much greater fascination to the ancients than other types of Egyptian writing, are almost always erroneous. Now watch this. It says several hieroglyphic compilations are known to have existed already in the Hellenistic times, but only two have survived. The one of Carimon, only this small excerpt by Ctesias, a 12th century Byzantine scholar, and the Hieroglyphica of Horopolo in its entirety, probably compiled in the 4th century CE. He was said to be the first to actually come forth and speak on the symbols. But Horopolo's work, which I have over here in PDF, Judah, he taught that.
You said that earlier on the show. You said Horopolo. Yeah, Horopolo.
And it is said, because not only did Champollion quote Horopolo, but also E. Wallace Budge in his book quotes Horopolo. And Champollion used some of Horopolo's glyphs. Huh? Yeah, so Champollion used some of Horopalo's materials to build on when creating his own. Horopalo actually means of Horus and Apollo. He was said to be the last Egyptian priest to deal with the language. Like I said, I got the whole PDF, and his breakdowns were metaphysical, bro. They wasn't alphabets. He broke these things down metaphysically. I'm gonna show it to you in a second too. You know, matter of fact, I'm gonna pull it
Hold
up.
on, Kemetian, I gotta take a call real quick.
Okay, go ahead. I'm gonna show this to
Okay.
the people then while you gone. Let me show y'all
Okay.
this, and y'all can get this for yourself. There it go, right there. Horopalo Hieroglyphica PDF. I'm gonna show you what Horopalo did here. These are the symbols that he came forth with. I'm gonna show you how he broke these things down. He never broke these things down based on alphabets. For example, he dealt with the year. He said when they would demonstrate a year, this would be a symbol to him, metaphysically broke down. See, they still had it because it had to be translated out of what they like to call Greek language. This document was translated out of Greek into English, so-called, right? We call it Hecopter. It says when they would represent a year, they delineate. Let me blow this up. It says Isis, a woman by the same symbol, also represent the goddess. Now, Isis is with them a star called an Egyptian Sothis, which he has the star right here. You see what I'm saying? So then he says, but in Greek, Ostrakion, the dog star, it says, which seems also to preside over other stars, insomuch as sometimes rises greater, at other times less, sometimes brighter, and at other times not so. And moreover, because according to the rising of this star, we shew all the events of the ensuing year. Therefore, not without reason, do they call the year Isis, when they would represent the year. Otherwise, they delineate a palm tree, which he showed here. You see what I'm saying? A palm tree branch because of others. It say all others, this tree alone at each renovation, and he's going into the year, you know, has to do with a processional process. The moon produces one additional branch, and so that in 12 branches, a year is completed. So you see how he took this palm leaf branch concept and said that this represents the 12 months in the year. So Horopalo did not look at these symbols as alphabets. He looked at them as expressions of events that took place and gave a metaphysical, allegorical interpretation. He not only did that with this family, every definition that he used, like the universe. It says, how the universe. See the symbol of the serpent? He didn't represent this as an alphabet. He said when they would represent the universe, they delineated a serpent, being speckled with variegated scales, devouring its own tail. And those scales would represent, again, right here, the intimating stars in the universe. That is special portion on the back. It says, and the animal is also extremely heavy. It says, as is the earth, and extremely slippery, like the water. Moreover, every year puts off its old age with its skin. As in the universe, the annual period affects corresponding change and becomes renovated, and making the use of its own body for food implies that all things whatsoever that are generated by divine providence in the world undergo a corruption into it again. And that's why you will see this symbol of the serpent, if you ever seen it, biting upon its tail. You know, I'm gonna give it to you right here, which is a symbol of the universe. Hold up. Is no, I'm gonna show you what this was adopted at. Let's see here. Higher than truth. There's no religion higher than truth, right? And you will see this often in the teachings of theosophy. You see this symbol here dealing with the serpent consuming its tail. This is what Horopalo is referring to as the symbol of the universe. You know, all these designs to him represented the stars. And they said that most of his stuff was accurate. Horopalo's works. He ain't dealing with no alphabet. He didn't say this represent the letter Y or the letter I. This man is giving a metaphysical interpretation of these things and telling you what they represent. Then he showed how the month was represented here. You see? He says to represent a month, they delineate a palm branch, because a month, you know, to the Egyptian, when you break it down, deal with the 28-day period that deal with the moon cycles, which also deal with the cycle of the woman. See, that's me adding that in there, but it says a palm branch for the reason before mentioned, respecting the palm tree and the moon inverted, because they say that it is increased when it has come to 15 degrees. It appears in a figure with its horns erect, and its decrease after having completed the number of 30 days. It sets with its horns inverted. So if you know anything about breaking down the cycles of what they call, you know, a year, you know, or even dealing with monthly aspects, you're dealing with degrees, 30, 60, and 90. This is just like saying January, February, March, so to speak, right? 30, 60, 90, and that go through a cycle of degrees. That's 90 degrees. That's one quadrant. You see, and then you continue to go on, you know, April, May, June. That's another 90 degrees. You know, July, August, September, you know, and then October, November, December. So all the way around that circle, you're dealing with 30, 60, 90, right? 30, 60, 90, 30, 60, 90, 30, 60, 90, and that's 360, which really was where they get the concept of 360 degrees, the circle, because there's 360-degree cycle when you go into the cycles of the original Egyptian calendars. The other days are added later. You see? And also 360 is the same degrees that deal with the Enochian calendar. Because we know Enoch was really Tehuti. And that's why his calendar would be the same and based on the Kemetic calendar. So I'm getting into some high science here, family. So that goes on. Now, Infadishi, you would hear him use this example all the time. Well, Horapollo was the first to use this example, talking about the hawk. It says what they signify by delineating the hawk, right? It says when they would signify God or height or lowliness or excellence or blood or victory, Ares, Aphrodite, or Hor or Hathor, they delineate a hawk. They symbolized it by God because the bird is prolific and long-lived, or perhaps rather because it seems to be an image of the sun being capable of looking more intently towards its rays without having to blink. They can look directly into the sun. It says, than all other winged creatures, and hence physicians for the cure of the eyes use the herb hawkweed. Hence also it is under the form of a hawk they sometimes depict the sun as the Lord of vision, and they use it to denote height, because other birds, when they would soar high, move themselves from side to side, being incapable of ascending vertically. But the hawk alone soars directly upwards, and they use it as a symbol of lowliness, because other animals move not in a vertical line, but descend obliquely. It says the hawk, however, stoops directly down upon anything beneath it, and they use it to denote excellence, because it appears to excel all birds. And for blood, because they say that this animal does not drink water but blood. And for victory, because it shews itself capable of overcoming every winged creature. For when pressed by some more powerful bird, it directly turns itself in the air upon its back and fights with its claws extended upwards, its wings and backs below, and its opponent, being unable to do the like, is overcome. So if you look at this, family, this is a metaphysical breakdown on the hawk that Horapollo, an Egyptian priest. Now, before a so-called decipherment, before the 19th century so-called decipherment of Medu Neter, this was Horapollo's breakdown on these symbols. Go and get the PDF, family, and look through these things. Every last one of these symbols to him was metaphysical. So later on, and everybody else that believed with Horapollo believed the same thing. They all seen it that way. You know, it was only later when Champollion come through, which he studied the teachings of Horapollo, that he began to say that he deciphered something. Now look at what it said. I'm going to read this again. It says it is to be noted here that no Greek or Latin author of non-Egyptian origin ever took the trouble to learn Egyptian. The various reports about the hieroglyphs, which prove much greater fascination to the ancients than the other types of Egyptian writing, are almost always erroneous. Several hieroglyphic compilations are known to have existed already in the Hellenistic time, and they're going to reference the one that I just read, Champollion. It says, but only two have survived. The one of Kemetian, it is small excerpt by Zetes, and then you had a 12th century Byzantine scholar and the Hieroglyphica of Horapollo. It say in his entirety, probably compiled in the 4th century CE. In both authors, listen to what it say, in both of these authors that wrote these texts they had, an allegorical conception of the signs is found. Not an alphabetical, an allegorical sign, which I just showed you what Champollion, who he learned from Horapollo, what Horapollo was teaching. It says that even their most extravagant allegorical fancies can be traced to one of the established functions of the Egyptian signs is due to the fact that they were undoubtedly based on genuine Egyptian sources. They're saying without doubt or contradiction, from the way that they books give it, they can tell they've been based genuinely on true sources of Egypt. That's Horapollo's measure and Karimon's measure. They both demonstrate allegories about those symbols and not alphabets. It says, if the introductory lines of the present passage derive from Karimon himself, it says, which is not wholly certain, it say they might be Zetes' own. It say it would appear that Karimon, in spite of his being an Egyptian priest, adhered to the erroneous Greek symbolic conception of hieroglyphs. Hold up. Pardon self. Okay. Yeah, it says that the Egyptian priests, it says in Hellenistic Roman, it's a period I often no longer knew the exact significance of many hieroglyphs is probable. And so this is one of my measures here showing you that they understood this thing from what we call a symbolic degree. Now watch this. That ain't it. This was another thing I read to them before I got off the show. Let me show you where this source is coming from too, by the way, for those who are looking and would like to know. This source is called the Sacred Signs, right, in ancient Egypt. And I got a couple of them here. Since I got the time, I'm going to go here. Look at what this said. This went over their head right here, family. They thought it was a joke. It said publishers, and this is what a reverse engineering come in at right here, Judah and family. Publishers used to typeset books. That is, each page was laid out using individual metal type for each word. For alphabets of 20 odd signs, this meant having signs of similar letters per page, and the technique of setting them in place was a considerable skill. For typesetting hieroglyphs, the labor involved was no less, but the production of the signs was more difficult, as hundreds of different signs were used for Middle Egyptian alone. In addition, the signs could be quite complex or detailed. The French Institute in Cairo, which is Institut Francus or Francaeus Archaeologie Orientale, which is the IFAO, it says was at the forefront of the development of a hieroglyphic font. They're telling you the French was the ones who came up with this hieroglyphic font, right? For its publication of Edfu and Dendra temples. They said requiring thousands of different signs. Hold up. Let me bring that down a little bit so y'all can see it. Okay, it says, here we go. So it says, let me bring it down a little bit more here. Okay, it says requiring thousands of different signs. The signs had to be accurately copied from the temple walls. Here they go now. They copying this stuff from temple walls now. And they cut it in metal typeface. Then they laid out to create the page and print it off what they got from their typeface. You see? It says the earlier IFO font consisted of outline signs so that additional detail could be put in the interior of the sign if necessary. It said this must have been a very time-consuming process. But it was later decided that the best compromise was to have solid signs which contain the necessary fine detail for Ptolemaic hieroglyphs. I didn't make this stuff up, family. I thought I was the one that coined the phrase. But nope, it's a real thing that's called Ptolemaic hieroglyphs. I was slinging it around thinking I came up with it off my head, and it's a real thing that's called Ptolemaic hieroglyphs, which support what I've been saying. I said for the first 8 volumes here, this is what is going in the same thing now. It says of the Edfu temple alone, there are over 3,000 printed pages full of hieroglyphs that they got from the wall. And I'm going to show you what they did with these printed pages in a minute. A truly monumental work carried on today by Sylvain Colville and her team at both Edfu and Dendera temples. If you don't know what Edfu and Dendera temples are, I'm going to show them to you right now, because I actually have the copies of the temples so y'all will know what we're referring to. This will give y'all a better guideline. These are the temples that they are referring to as Edfu and the Dendera temples, which was basically rebuilt by the Ptolemies. They pillaged the original temples and rebuilt their own temples. They built 5 temples. One was known as the Temple of Esna, which was a Ptolemaic temple. Pardon myself. There was another one here, like I showed you, the Dendera complex. See it? The Dendera, Esna, Edfu, and the Komombu and the Pele, or Philae temples were all built by the Ptolemies family. They were rebuilt. You see what I'm saying? So when they did this, this is when they implemented their own cells into Kemet. Can you see this? Look at this, family. These are not the original people there. Like I was telling them, the original Egyptians never venerated Sobek. Sobek has always been the enemy. That's the crocodile deity. Has always been the enemy of Ra. Anybody that know basic teachers about Kemet know this. So there it is there. Look at this Eurocentric looking woman right here and this Eurocentric looking man that they have put up here on the walls in the temples that they basically reestablished. Look at this. This is all Ptolemaic, family. So when we talk about Ptolemaic hieroglyphs, this is a prime example of what they did. Where they actually took the original images. Now look at this. Chipped them out, remodded them basically, and then put their figures over. They just didn't finish completing this work here. See how they took all that? That chiseling was so that they can remud it. Anybody that knows something about construction and know about mud, know if I wanted to try to remud over this right here, I could basically put bonding coats over this and go over the structure, and then I can put a renewal of actually renewing how these things would look. And that's how they came up with all these different examples. Some they were able to finish, some they wouldn't. So this is what I'm talking about when I talk about reverse engineering, family, to make you think that they were there first. This is not the only ones that I have here. And they did the same thing when it came to the land. Look at this. They have Ptolemy, a Roman person there serving an ancient Egyptian supposed to be goddess. Look, Osiris, you know Ptolemy didn't exist during that time. What are they doing in the ancient temples that are supposed to be ancient temples of Kemet serving the gods? These are Ptolemaic hieroglyphs with a depiction of a Roman emperor now. Look at this. All these Ptolemaic hieroglyphs originated from other signs that they created later. That's why you see how the work has become more elaborate, because over the time, people get better at dealing with what it is they do. And I tell y'all all the time, this stuff is not engraved in mud. All you got to do is create a wood stamping, and you put wet mud up there on the wall, and you can just stamp that stuff in mud, family. And once you stamp it, it's going to stamp with perfection of what you stamping up there. So it was not carved in the wall. These things were stamped into wet mud, family, allowed to dry. And in some cases, they colored this stuff. You see what I'm saying? Here's another Ptolemaic expression here. See? Look at even the the way that they deal with their headdress, how they have other designs on them. You know, so all of this stuff was again remix. This is called reverse engineering. Let me show you this real quick. Let me show you this, family, because we're gonna make it plain tonight. I'm gonna go right back to this in a minute, but I want to make sure our family get this. Look at this. Now look, reverse engineer. It means to disassemble, which is what they did with the temples. We seen they hacked away and carved away at them, and examine or analyze in detail a product or device to discover the concepts involved in manufacture, usually in order to produce something similar. This is called remixing something. Some people call it plagiarism. That's basically what it is. You're stealing somebody else's intellectual property, family. Look at what it says. For example, if you here in the United States, it says, is reverse engineering illegal? In the U.S. Section 103F of the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, DMCA, 17 U.S.C. 1201, reverse engineering specifically states that it is legal, it is legal to reverse engineer, it says, and circumvent the protection to achieve the interoperability between computer programs, such as information and transfer between applications. You see? So when you go into this measure right here, you know, it says, why is reverse engineering unethical? Many companies consider RE an unethical practice as it enables others to violate their copyrights and steal their intellectual property. You see? So when you get into reverse engineering, you're really dealing with somebody stealing somebody's works. Now, this is where we bring it home at. Now, I showed our people this. This went over their head too, Judah. I was talking about the Diary of Mareri. For those who don't know what the Diary of Mareri is, this is the Diary of Mareri right here. It's very important that you understand this before I go into where I'm going. It is right here. Now watch the video on this here. It's a small video. Now watch what it says. And watch what it says at the bottom of the screen. I'm finna show you this, how these people reverse engineered and went in here and created their own demonstration here. Just give it a second to load up. It should load up fine. 50. Okay. Just give it a second. It should still go ahead. Let's get a little more time for the channel to open up. We should be good. I'm gonna let it do what it do before I do anything to it, because I don't want to make it lock up or nothing. Just give it a second. It should load up. This is the problem I was having on his page too. I know I used to be able to do this right here, like trick the system, and normally that'll open something up. I'm gonna see what happens if I hold it here a second. Just give me 1 second. Okay. There we go. I hate the fact that this thing is really giving me problems like this. I don't know if I need to reset my internet or what. But it don't never do this normally. It usually let me play these clips. Ain't no way in the world my internet going this slow. Especially when you see the length of this video already up, it should definitely be letting me play this video. Anyway, what I'm gonna do it like this. I'm gonna drop this clip right here in the inbox, because we ain't finna waste no time worrying about why Rome ain't letting me demonstrate like this here. I'm gonna take this off and I'm gonna drop this clip in the back chat, and we may be able to get our sister Karima to probably play it for us if she is there in a second. I think I just got too many windows open too. That may be my problem because I got a lot open up here. Okay, hold up. Here we go, right here. Sister Kareem, if you get that right there, let me know, and we'll get you to open it up for us. But what I'm gonna explain something on this. Maybe you can open it up by the time I get through explaining to them about this doctrine of Mareri. I'm gonna actually go to the I'm gonna go over here. Where is that? I'm gonna go right here and I'll show it to our people. You know what? I actually have it right here in my slide already, so I don't even have to go there. I'm gonna go right here and pull it up in my slide and show y'all exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, here we go here. Let me scroll this down to the bottom here. And there it is right there. This is Mareri. This is known as the Diary of Mareri, family. Look this up. Known as the Papyri of Jarf. It says the name for the papyrus. This was found in 2013. This is the actual log book dealing with the building of the pyramid. And it say this is the oldest known papyrus with a text dating to the 27 years of the reign, you see, of the pharaoh of Khufu. So this particular brother, Mareri, was an inspector of the site of the working. And his dialogue, or rather his log book that's given here, is dealing with the actual laboring in the construction of the pyramid. If you notice here, this is written in hieratic, family. This is, oh, it's too big there. That's written in hieratic. So my question is, if this is 4,000 years old, or 4,500 years old, the oldest there, and they also put this together along with what they call the Papyri of Prissy. They actually run during the same time. And that's why I was finna actually go right here. I was getting ready to go to this particular portion in my bill. Where is it? Right. Not that one. Not that one. Give me 1 second. I got so much work up here, family. It's ridiculous. Not that one. Not that one. Not that one. Where you at? Okay, not that one. Not that one. Not that one. This is one of the most important points I want to make. Let me see. Here it is right here. This is what I'm looking for. What they are calling the King Khufu papyrus and the Prissy papyrus, they say both made in ancient Egypt around 2500 BC. That's that 4,000 4500 BC that they referring to. These papyri that are the oldest existing written works on papyri today, right? Now, this is a book citing the same thing I just said. It says the first was named after Prissy d'Avennes, the French Egyptologist, and the contents of the papyrus written in hieratic script are based on the teachings of Ptahhotep, which you hear Tehuti say he followed. You hear all the brothers that say they follow Kemet say they follow the teachings of Ptahhotep, right? But when you go into this document, it was written in hieratic. It says Grand Vizier under the 5th Egyptian dynasty, Pharaoh Isesi, right? It says the National Library of France now houses the 4,000-year-old papyrus. The King Khufu papyrus written in the hieratic script was discovered 2013. Didn't I just say that? They also refer to this papyri as the Red Sea Scroll. You know, on the play like the Dead Sea Scroll, because they say this was found close to the Red Sea. So they call it the Red Sea Scroll. It says, and it's displayed at the Egyptian Museum in Cairo. The Book of the Dead, the Bakhemut papyrus, and the other ancient Egyptian papyrus scroll dates from 1250 BC, right? It says it was written in hieratic script and illustrated with hieroglyphics. Now, written in hieratic script and illustrated with hieroglyphics, this is what they're talking about when they say that. See how this is written in hieroglyphics? I mean, hieratic part itself and illustrated in hieroglyphics, which is just like putting a picture beside a book. So the hieratic is the text. And then they put these pictures in here just like we put a book together and we put pictures in the book so the people can understand what we saying. So here is some more hieratic text and they illustrating in different pictures. Them pictures ain't got no meaning. It's the text that got all the meaning to them that's written in hieratic. See the hieratic here written all around, and then they have illustrations up here in hieroglyphic, not understood to be a language, but just pictures. You see? So these are the type of demonstration they were talking about. Now let me go on and finish reading what was being said here, right? It said it was written in the hieratic script and illustrated with hieroglyphics and small illustrations of Inetes discovered in Egypt in 1799 by a French archaeologist. The Rosetta Stone, dating from 195 BC, was written in 3 scripts, and we showed it to you earlier, right? We showed you if it was invented during the Ptolemaic time, then it had to come from the Ptolemies, right? Now watch this. Egyptian hieroglyphics, Egyptian Demotic script, and the Greek, right? This is what the Rosetta Stone was written in, right? Ptolemaic hieroglyphs too. It says, scholars believe that the Ptolemies, the ruling dynasty of Egypt at that time, were all fluent Greek speakers and ordered the creation of the Rosetta Stone. So this right here kills somebody trying to think this Rosetta Stone come from ancient Kemet. All scholars teach, most of them, that this stone was created in the Ptolemaic period. And look at what they say. Using the ancient Egyptian scribes who were also fluent in Greek, the Ptolemies may have attempted to decipher Egyptian hieroglyphs, but it proved challenging. They couldn't do it. So they went and got the Egyptian scribes and made them so-called do it. Right? Let them tell it. But we never got no document on that. We don't see what the ancient Egyptian scribes who came forth and deciphered nothing, because Champollion say he the one did it. It says in the year 1823, using a Rosetta Stone, a set of Egyptian hieroglyphs was completely deciphered for the very first time by John Fancois Champollion. Now don't get it twisted and say, oh, you saying that they just, no, I'm not saying that. I'm saying what they are saying. They are saying Champollion deciphered these things for the first time, right? It says the Rosetta Stone was later to be used by the British and the French archaeologists as a dictionary to translate other Egyptian hieroglyphics. So if you want to know what became the dictionary for the so-called Egyptologists, it is the Rosetta Stone, right? But how does this have anything to do with the ancient Egyptians when this was done in 195 BC? How can you use something as a dictionary that was created by people that came later and they didn't even understand what it was? It says in ancient Egypt, hieroglyphics took a long time to read and were thus used mostly on buildings and tombs. How you know how long it took to read if you wasn't there 3000 BC? You see? How do you know that it had to do with the reading that y'all talking about? When Apollo said that they wasn't read, they were basically allegorical and metaphysical. You see? It says for other uses, a hieratic script was developed around 2000 BC for a full-length writing on papyrus. This was later replaced in 800 BC by the more simplified Demotic script. Now, this is all the Europeans' demonstration of what they are saying here. We call it truth and falsehood strangely mixed in the Moorish circle. Hieroglyphics were in use in ancient Egypt until about AD 40, which at the time was already part of the Roman Empire. It says today, ancient Egyptian language has evolved into the Coptic language, which is still being used, right, by minority Christians in Egypt who belong to the Coptic Egyptian church. Now, these same Coptic people were the ones that helped Budge with his so-called translations of his dictionary. It wasn't Ebot Wallace Budge that translated these things. It was the Coptic Christians, and I said that over and over. So when we go into these works, family, speaking on that Coptic concept, I'm going to show you something real quick. Listen to what it says. And this is coming from this text. The multilingual experience in Egypt from the Ptolemies to the Abbasids. For those who don't know who the Abbasids is, it's talking about the Abbasid Caliph under the Arabs. It says the first experiments in combining the two languages, they're talking about Greek and so-called Egyptian, right, were transliterations of Greek names into Egyptian. So now they done took the Greek language and they're going to translate that into Egyptian. Reverse engineering now. And conversely of Egyptian names into Greek. So now they transliterate Egyptian names into Greek. 100 years or so after Alexander's conquest, longer Egyptian texts begin to be rendered in Greek letters. And one of the most important texts have survived from this period is the bilingual Greek-Egyptian word list from Al-Habia that gives the Egyptian equivalents of the Greek words in Greek transcription, a Greek graffito from the Temple of Seti I at Abydos, and involves a lengthy Egyptian religious formula. It has been suggested that the writer was Egyptian who could read and write Greek but not Demotic. The graffito can be dated 202 to 201 BCE. You know, it says the origins of Coptic therefore appear to stem from the fact that when native Egyptians themselves found Demotic Egyptian script difficult to interpret, they made attempts at rendering their language in Greek script initially, and there were 6 main Coptic dialects corresponding to different geographical areas, and they recorded with different writing systems and phonologies, and I think that this multiplicity suggests that Coptic developed quite informally in different parts of Egypt. Some scholars, however, tried to suggest that some sort of official committee was responsible for the birth of Coptic, as for example happened in the case of the Turkish. It said the reason why Egyptians lost their ability to decipher Demotic has been attributed to the changes in schooling in the language brought about, it says, by the Ptolemaic Greek-speaking government. As a result of these changes, the Egyptian students no longer learn how to fill the gaps in the vowelless script. Some Demotic texts came to depend on accompanying Greek transcription to act as a guide to pronunciation. These texts are predominantly magical, and it's easy to appreciate how correct pronunciation is essential to in a magical text, where only precise utterances may be efficacious. So what they are getting into is that the Egyptians lost their language under the Ptolemaic people. So how can you come back and say that the Ptolemies were the ones who brought forth, you know, a Ptolemaic Rosetta Stone, and then use that Rosetta Stone as a dictionary to interpret what was taught in ancient Egypt? That is insane, family. And this is what happened during the time of Ptolemy right here. See this? Ptolemy came in during the time really of 330 BC. They go further up because they deal with the Alexandrian period. But anyway, it goes into showing you all this Ptolemy. And look at this Alexander the Great here. They done created. Look at this. They even talk about here how they created all these different temples. As you can see the temples, look at it. This is what they did. This is the cult temple reconstruction, family, where they built on top of the original temples, just like I was showing you they did. These are the raw statues that they did in 30 BC. That's all during the Ptolemaic time. Look at that. They also created that during the time of Ptolemy. You know good and well that is not a native-born Egyptian family. You know that. You know it don't look nothing like that. Those who know better, when you know better, you do better. This is another expression they saying from 180 to 145 BC, a Ptolemy measure. Here's a close-up of that Alexander degree. You know good and well. You know good and well, family, that ain't no Kemite family. Stop the man. This is from 30 BC. Here. And they did it to all of the stuff. So what make y'all think they wouldn't go in there and remix the pattern? And here it is right here. It says, in France, however, John Francois Champollion was taking a different approach, focusing on the derivative relationship between the Demotic script and the hieroglyphs. He didn't know hieratic. He claimed that he had some knowledge in Demotic, in Coptic. It says, by, in essence, reverse engineering from Demotic to the hieroglyphs. Oh my God. This is what Champollion did. Now, he reverse engineered from Demotic to the hieroglyphs. And he produced a hypothetical cartouche for a royal name of Cleopatra. How in the world do you do that? And when he received through his friend John Letron a copy of Blanc's lithograph, he was able to verify that his hypothetical cartouche closely resembled one of those on the shaft of Pele obelisk, which was also Ptolemaic. Didn't I show you the 5 cities that was built, and Pele was one of them? So if Pele was one of them, and you go and get something off that obelisk, you talking about Ptolemaic hieroglyphs. What does that have to do with ancient Kemet? So you found something that resembled the hypothetical cartouche that you create, Champollion, and then you take this back to a Ptolemaic obelisk, and this helped you decipher the language of ancient Kemet. Man, get out of here with that foolishness. That's like me originating the book, and then I say, okay, well, this language allowed me to decipher the Torah. How can I do that when I just created a book? That's crazy. It says a context in which the queen's name was likely to be present. So that's why you'll find Ptolemy name on a Ptolemaic obelisk, Cleopatra's name, because it was built by the Ptolemies. Duh. Of course their name is there. They usurped everything they could. And this is what they came up with. This is your Ptolemaic interpretations here. Look at this. And they put Ptolemy in the glyphs and then told you this. Well, this is Ptolemy, beneficent son of the Ptolemy and Cleopatra, gods manifest. Pharaoh and the Cleopatra, his sister, Pharaoh and the wife, don't make no sense. Now, this is another thing. This is how you know masonry involved up in there. It says modern masonry was involved in these interpretations. A lot of this stuff also was furthered by Western Freemasons. It says, in the priests of Alexander and the gods who saved the fraternal gods. Fraternal gods, huh? So it says here, and I keep reading this to them, they don't get it. It says scripts of Egyptian languages. The development of Egyptian writing went hand in hand with the consolidation of a unified Egyptian state. Over the course of 4.5 millennia, the Egyptian scribes developed 4 scripts with which to write their language at various stages of its development. In the classical period, training began with hieratic and proceeded to hieroglyphic. Although students today generally reverse that order, which is what Smash, Rockwell, and the rest of these so-called chematologists do, it says finding hieratic more difficult to read and certainly to write. It goes into giving you definitions of the different writings. But my main function is this one on hieratic. It says the cursive script primarily for use with pen on papyri or ostracum, that is a potsherd or limestone flake. It say it is a mistake to think that hieratic developed out of hieroglyphs. It's a mistake to think that hieratic language family come from hieroglyphic. That's what they said here. I didn't say that. Kemetian didn't say that. That comes from the book that I'm reading from. It says, in fact, the oldest extant texts from Egypt, which date to the pre-dynastic period, were produced with ink and brush. The oldest texts were produced with ink and brush. They weren't carved in the wall. They were produced with ink and brush. It says, with no indication that the signs descended from hieroglyphs. Huh? It says, rather, two writing systems seem to have developed side by side, reserved for different uses. Only rarely were inscriptions written on hard stone in hieratic script, which served for more commonplace everyday purposes. Hieratic also appears to have been called Medunetta, God's word as well. And I always tell our family, Medunetta is a blanket term, that's used for the languages. So don't get it twisted. Now, it goes on, and this is my other source. The source is right down here in the bottom. And I actually have a link that'll go directly to it. This is the Oxford Book of Egyptology, which you see right here, right? Look at what it says. The bulk of ancient writing production in the spheres of administration, private business, literature, knowledge, and even some domains of ritual action was executed in cursive scripts, hieratic, and later Demotic. See below. Ancient scribes were trained in cursive varieties first. Now, this source is different from the other I just read. But notice they are telling you that the people were trained in hieratic first, family. It said, and only a minority was further introduced into the hieroglyphic script, which was associated with more restricted domains of ideology and sacerdotal science. That's metaphysics, family. So the hieroglyphics was taught later as sacerdotal science. You see? Let us go look it up to show you what the word sacerdotal means, so our family can really know exactly what we're saying. Watch this. And it has to do with that which relates to denoting a doctrine which ascribes to sacrificial functions and spiritual or supernatural powers to ordained priests. So this deals with the priesthood. They didn't teach this to the common people. And that's what they failing to realize. And they really put a limitation on Medunetta, on even the pictorial expressions, because the pictorial expressions, as explained by Horopolo, can be taken to a more vast breakdown than just putting them in the box and say they represent a letter. So you desecrating the science of Kemet by doing that. Now watch this. Coming from the same book, it says, differing from hieroglyphic writing, hieratic and demotic were only written from right to left, while hieratic and to a lesser degree demotic retained a significant amount of iconicity, notably in logograms and determinatives. These scripts lay outside the complex interaction with the pictorial sphere characteristic of hieroglyphs. So they're saying that the use of determinatives in hieratic has nothing to do with the characteristics of those of hieroglyphs. Hieratic and demotic were generally drawn on perishable or disposable portable media, papyrus writing, boards, ostraca, which is stone, but also include graffiti, secondary epigraphy on the tomb of temple walls. Hieratic could also be incised on clay under special circumstances, and on natural rock, lapidary hieratic. Both hieratic and demotic were occasionally used on stelae, epigraphic hieratic for administrative documents, monumentalized for hieratic proper, as opposed to mill-drawn forms of hieroglyphs documented as early as Dynasty 0, emerged during the early 3rd millennium. Consistent patterns for abbreviating signs through emphasis on visually distinctive traits and diacritic features are found from 2nd Dynasty onward. So they're telling you about this hieratic and its presence, and how it constantly evolved. You see? So it said, obviously, one must take account in the studying hieroglyphic paleography These separate lines of development, especially since semi-cursive forms occasionally appear on stone and other hard materials. Everyone who has any familiarity, right? Familiarity with ancient Egyptian writing will be aware that there is a greater similarity between hieratic forms of different periods than there is between hieratic and hieroglyphic forms of the same period. Do you understand what's being said there? They say there's a greater similarity between hieratic forms of different periods, meaning from the old kingdom all the way up to the new kingdom. There's a greater similarity where you can see a likeness in that. It says, than there is between hieratic and hieroglyphic forms from the same period. So this lets you know that there are two different expressions. It says it may not be equally well appreciated. It says, however, that the same statement is true of cursive hieroglyphs as compared with the standard forms. In each case, there's a separate and distinct tradition. One must also take into account of the occasional intrusion of the more cursive forms, including hieratic, and in undetailed hieroglyphic inscriptions of type 2. Some hieratic intrusions of this kind may be cited from the Old Kingdom when semi-cursive form type 3 were also occasionally used and stated previously in stone inscriptions, and particularly in stone inscriptions that were small in scale and hastily executed. So they go into this whole measure. This is the type of stuff you see going on during Ptolemy's period. Look, they done created their own demonstration of Anpu, Anubis. Look at that garbage. This is your Ptolemaic demonstration, family. Greco-Roman influence. Look at them. They done took all the melanin out of it. Oh, man, this is terrible, family. You know, so all of this stuff they did, family, is all dealing with reverse engineering and cryptography, where you are hiding things. So what I'm showing you is that how is it possible when you look at the Book of the Dead, and it was written in straight hieratic right here, right? And then you go here, and this is the more modern demonstration that was produced later. And see, they reproduced it. Look at the time period now. Ptolemaic traditions. There it go. Every time you look up here, family, I mean, how much more of this right here you need to see? You know, I'm talking to the people that don't get it. You know, because this is really overkill. And I shouldn't have to repeat myself, but this is the real death blow. This is the source that I want all of y'all to go look up. This is dealing with the University of Chicago. It's called The Book of the Dead and Becoming God in Ancient Egypt. This is a compilation by different scholars on the Book of the Dead, and they pull up the original text, and they say all the original texts of the Book of the Dead were written in hieratic. But when you see them now that we have them, they have a different expression of what the Book of the Dead. Look at this. Now they illustrate it with pictures here, but look at the language that's here. See, I wasn't able to show all of this on Sarnetta Show. Here's a nut. Why they ain't never showed you this in the Kemetic community? All this is hieratic, family. This is not pictorial hieroglyphs or Ptolemaic hieroglyphs right here. Now I'm going to show you what they did do. See all this here? They got illustrations here now with pictures on them. But these are just pictorial illustrations, just like putting pictures in your book when you're trying to get people to see what you're saying. So we can say this here, by me looking at this and understanding what's expressed here, I can tell that this comes from an expression of what deal with the Amduat. I'm saying that based on what I'm looking at here. I got to go into decipherment of this, but I can tell you, I can see a brother here paying homage to the deities. You see Tehudi here, you see Asar Anpu here, and it's paying homage to the Netaru right here. So I can tell you that this particular measure, I guarantee you, they illustrating that, but it has everything to do with when one transliterated something dealing with homage to the Netaru. You see? And they actually have a translation that they come up with. But we ain't going to look at all of this hieratic papyri, bro. I can't make this stuff up. They ain't teaching you this. I ain't never seen this stuff in the Egyptian books that they be talking about. I found this in my own research, and this is a reliable source, because this is the source of the people who actually controlling the Egyptian antiquities right now. This ain't just no random book. These are people that's controlling this stuff. And the only reason they putting this out, because they know it's certain people out here that find, look at all this, family. Every time they show you something, they showing pictures. Look at here. Now, here's the so-called hieroglyphs that would normally be depicted in their demonstration, right? They have 3 right here sitting. You see the steps. You got the boat of Ra over here. You got one paying homage with one with an animal on the table. Look like a antelope, look like to me. You know, sitting down with the 2 Netaru. You know, we see homage being paid right here. Look like one has some bread up there. And they have the leg of an ox, which became the confession of the scimitar. One paying homage and they getting ready to eat. Look like they breaking bread together to me. See, this is what I mean when I say really understanding Medu Neter. You don't need no books, you know, of alphabets to interpret this stuff. We can see what they're doing. They're working in the field over here right now. They plan to look like papyri, tossing seeds down right here. You feel me? I don't need no alphabet to see that. That's why I say to truly be able to read Medu Neter, family. You know, if you're going to deal with it from a metaphysical standpoint, all you got to do is read creation, the book of creation. That ain't got nothing to do with no alphabet. Now, again, back to the hieratic. If you notice, hieratic is all over the place, family. Hieratic. This is the book of the dead. Now, I'm going to show you. They're going to switch it up in a minute. They depicted also here. They're going to switch it up in a minute. And you're going to see that these other books or these other texts, you know, is a second version. These are cursive hieroglyphs. Our brother Judah asked us about these earlier. This is nothing more than what they trying to say is hieroglyphics today. These cursive hieroglyphs in most of these books, they come from the Ptolemaic era. These books, even that style of writing, family, come from the Ptolemaic era. Look. See? Look, watch this. There it is. Now watch this. Book of the Dead, Papyrus of Eteru, Papyrus of Millblank, Papyrus Paint, Egypt, Memphis, purchased 1919, Ptolemaic period, 330-230 BC. So anytime you dealing with somebody talking about this is writing, family, I mean, how much more do I need to put up here to prove to you, you know, the naysayers? This is all Ptolemaic right here, family. Huh? And they tell you in the breakdown of a lot of this, this is what they say. This is what the scholars in Chicago who compiled this stuff. Let me show y'all the difference too. When we talking about the Red Sea Scrolls, the Red Sea Scrolls was found during this time period, 4,500 years ago. You see, during this period, 2,500, 2,700 BC and all of that, they say, you know, depending on the people you deal with. Now, when you get down to the so-called Greco-Roman period, this is where the Ptolemy stuff come in. So if the Rosetta Stone originated down here, family, how in the world can you use that to translate something that came into existence back here? Make it make sense. Huh? Like, it ain't hard to figure out. You can't do it. It's impossible. And this is my last measure here. And then we'll touch on some of that stuff in the video that Smash did as we beat him up. But we wanted to lay this here down. Look at this. I want to show you something here. Notice they talking about the Book of the Dead right here. Written in hieratic text, right? See it right there. A copy of one section in hieratic funeral text. All that I showed you in hieratic was right there as well. I'm trying to get up here to 27 is where I want it to go. And I want to read something they said that was very important concerning their compilation of this information. Like I said, these are different scholars in that particular department that are speaking. Now listen to what they say. They said, when all of the above is taken into consideration, it is clear that answering the question, what is the Book of Dead, of the dead, is a very different question, right, from answering the question, what was the Book of the Dead? It says, in many ways, the Book of the Dead, for example, is a modern construction of our imagination. They're admitting that the Book of the Dead is a modern construction of our imagination. Meaning, this is what these scholars saying. Now watch where they kill them at. They say our conceptions are dictated by the way we categorize the text, how we privilege particular formats, what we see as the ultimate purpose, and even what name we give to the ancient compositions. Like you always see Black as Smash try to apply that to the word Kemet. And we know them ancient ancestors didn't use no word black because the English language didn't exist. Watch what it says. This is, in most of these cases, our conceptual apparatus for discussing, right, and understanding this material is radically different than that of the ancient Egyptians themselves. So again, I asked the question, how can you take a Ptolemaic so-called dictionary and break down something that came before it, when the Ptolemy dictionary was originated by the Ptolemies themselves? And it really wasn't them. They put the Egyptians that was there under duress, you know, and basically produced this or you gonna die, and they killed some of them anyway. You feel me? So they're saying that our understanding is radically different from that of the ancient Egyptians themselves. So we can call something black all we want to. That ain't what they meant. It's saying in some ways this is inevitable. In other words, this is going to happen if you're dealing with these texts. He said, because we way up here now trying to talk about something ancient. But it is important to keep in mind the different perspectives. Our modern concepts can help us articulate our advances in interpretation, but they can also mislead us into misinterpretations, applying intentions, messages, or conclusions that never existed in the ancient mind. And this is a scholarly source, family. This is the source. Again, download this. This is from the University of Chicago, family, the people that control the majority of this Egyptian stuff in America. You feel me? These interpretations they got. This particular document is free. And in this document, just to show you what I'm talking about, this is a scholastic document, you know, but it goes into showing you everybody that put their use in here. You know, everybody that spoke on and what they spoke on in here and what they were talking about. Look at all the lists of the people that gave their input. And all of them were speaking on the same subject. And they were just trying to show you everybody that dealt with the same. I think this chief director, one of them is the one the brother Walter Williams contacted. Look at all these people that got together putting this together. You know what I mean? Look at all the names of the PhDs and all these people. And I only use this because they say you can't use nothing beyond the fifth, 5 years, because that's considered outdated. That's bull crap, because every book got a lineage, family. Like if you go look in the back of any book, it's going to have a lineage that trace back to older books. So there's no such thing as an old source, because most new books are based off of old sources. And in fact, it's crazy because in this particular compilation of information, they actually quoted some of the same stuff I was sourcing out earlier in this work. Some of the same stuff I was sourcing before I read this document, they actually quote some of those sources in their sources. You see what I'm saying? So like right here at this point, what I want to do, I want to open up the floor. Let me open up and see if our family is still there. Okay, we still rocking. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Okay, there we go. I don't see the brother Judah up there. But Sister Karima, are you there, Goddess? I think our sister might have walked off. So let me see here. Okay, so JJ left. Judah left. Okay. So what I'm gonna do? Let me see. Sister Kareem, are you there, goddess? I hope our sister ain't fell asleep. Okay. Well, all is well. All is well.
I'm here. I'm here.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry about that, sis. But what I wanted to do is just open up the floor now. Do you see what I just put out here, sis, just a few minutes ago?
Yes, sir.
And did I not display to them exactly what has taken place over here with this Ptolemaic demonstration?
Yes.
And I know you tired of hearing this same old argument over and over again because it's like a broken record, you know, and going back over the same information. A lot of this stuff was probably new to you. Like, do you see how much hieratic papyri I just pulled up then on the Book of the Dead?
Yes.
Why do you think it's so hard for our people to get it, Sister Kareem? From your opinion?
I don't know.
What'd you say, sis?
I said I have no idea.
Yeah, so basically that's what it is. And you know, we ain't gonna hold our family, you know, all night. I just want to play an increment and show you what took place to the people, what took place with Smash Rockwell. We're gonna give about 15 minutes and we're gonna close it out. That way we ain't on here all night. So it's 12:30. You know, we'll go to 12:45. And I want to show our family exactly what happened with this guy Smash. So let me pull up the actual video. This guy is very disingenuous. And look at this.
Don't hear anything.
What you say, Kareem?
Don't hear or see anything sharing screen.
Oh, you don't?
No.
I thought I was sharing. I'm just sitting here relaxed.
Right.
Hold
I'm
on.
like,
Yeah. I know you like, what are you waiting on?
right.
And I'm just a watching. Hold up, here we go right here. So sorry about that.
We know the sound it makes, but what does it mean? All right. We don't need to know what it means because it's
I was
what's
just playing.
classified as a phonogram. It is a symbol representing a vocal sound. So your whole entire life, you never knew what this symbol meant. We only need to know how it sounds. Now, Right in your brain, I'm asking you, what does this mean? Now notice it in your brain. I'm not even asking you to say nothing out loud. A lot of y'all said a noun, airplane. If you put it in a verb context, you probably said to fly. But notice you're saying whole words. You're not saying sounds here because this is not a phonogram. It will be considered a logogram, okay? In a written language, let me hide this so that we can see the whole presentation. In a written language, a logogram, logograph, or a lexicograph is a written character that represents a word or a morpheme, all right? And so now I hope everybody got that. That's simple. You feel me? And we got time. So now let's discuss the Rebus principle. In linguistics, the Rebus principle is the use of existing symbols, such as pictographs, purely for their sound, regardless of their meaning, to represent new words. Many ancient writing systems use what we now term the Rebus principle to represent abstract words which otherwise would be hard to represent with pictograms. It says an example that illustrates the Rebus principle is the representation of the sentence, I can see you, by using pictographs. Now that's off Wiki. Everybody can read this sentence using the Rebus principle. I can see you. I don't have to know that a can is a container that holds something. All I need to know is the sound that the symbol makes, can. I don't need to know is an I is something that you can perceive reality with. I simply need to know the sound the symbol makes is I. I can see you. Let's continue. So now we're going to have some fun. I just put up a script to illustrate how silly it is to say the metal netra ain't been deciphered. And if you want to participate, Sock, come off mute. Let me know how much time I got too. Now, in this script that I made up here, nobody in the world understands the meaning of none of these symbols, right? And so, but what becomes revealed—
4 minutes.
Okay, great. But what becomes revealed when we have what's called a bilingual inscription is that, okay, now if we know the Medu Neter, and if anybody out here know the Medu Neter, they can already prove what my script says above it. But if you don't, matter of fact, I won't put you on the spot, Kemetian, because you don't read symbols, and I'll leave you out of this. But for the people who can read, to
What's
be
up?
able to—
Can you stop that for a second?
First, if you don't read—
What's up?
No, Kramer. No,
What's up?
what is that supposed to be on top that he was showing?
Something he created.
No, I'm talking about, what is that? Put that back up there, please.
Yeah, that wasn't even no language, bro. He just put some symbols together, and basically he showed you some metal netta up under it. And it's just random stuff. He did basically what the Europeans did. It's basically put some symbols up there and reinvent your own script and then say it mean this. It's like, put it like this here, Judah. Let's say I was telling them online, you got A, B, C, D, E, F, G all the way up to Z, right? Now, what if I was to say, all right, this A is a star, the B is a car, the G is a dog, and I go into making all these things up, right? And I don't tell you that these are ABCs. I just put these things up there. Would you know what it is that I am saying by putting these symbols up here?
No.
The car and the dog.
No.
You wouldn't know that I'm saying A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
I don't know why we got to keep explaining this to these people.
Yeah. So what I'm saying, that's all the Europeans did. They took the hieratic alphabet and they put pictorial symbols on the side of the hieratic and then called that the language.
That's crazy.
That's what they did. So they keep asking, well, how can you translate? It's how they translated. The people that was translating the document, they weren't translating from those symbols.
I don't understand. I don't understand his example, because what he had over the top is some symbols he made up, and then he had the Ptolemy glyphs underneath that.
Right. Now remember, Judah, what I was saying to you before And I showed this to you before. Now, remember when I was reading earlier about when they said that the actual glyphs was copied and put down on paper? Remember they was talking about how they moved them from the monuments and all that?
Yeah.
Now, this is a prime example of what they was talking about right here. This is the Chester Beatty papyrus, right? I'm trying to get it to be upright like it's supposed to be. Just give me a second here. Because I don't want it to be sideways on you. I want you to see it right now in the upright fashion. Let me scroll this down a little bit. So even if you don't see it that way right there, I will show you this. Check this out. Now, this is Chester Beatty. This is actual so-called translation that they come up with, right? But they didn't translate this papyrus. They translated, hold up. 1 second. I hate when that thing go like that and you can't just turn it with your hand. It's upside down. I'm trying to turn it right side up so you can see his papyrus. Okay, I think that's it right there. If it don't flip. If it don't flip on. Okay, so here we go right here. I'm going to scroll this down and we should have everything right where I'm going to look at this. You know what? I ain't going to even worry about it because I still can make my point right here. See this here? I keep telling our family, just like I showed you a whole bunch of hieratic papyrus a few minutes ago. This, my brother, is hieratic right here.
Mm-hmm.
You already know this.
Mm-hmm.
This is hieratic. This is the Chester Beatty papyrus, right?
Who was Chester Beatty? The white man that stole the papyrus?
Yep. Another European that named the papyrus after themselves, and it's upright now. It's in the right position now. Now watch this. You see it at the bottom. Now watch this. Let's go to the pages. This is the photocopy of the hieroglyphs they created. This should be enough to prove the dead giveaway, bro. We know that this is the original right here, bro. So if somebody come later and create some symbols and try to replace this with this, like, bro, what part do you not understand? This is Ptolemaic hieroglyphic decipherment.
Right.
That ain't got nothing to do with deciphering this.
Got nothing.
You feel me?
Yeah, I get it. It's them
like, what in the world is wrong? And this ain't the only papyrus I got, Judah. I got a whole bunch of them here. I got a whole bunch of the papyrus up here. That's the crazy part about it.
Right.
What the other papyrus that I got right here?
And you could show that to them all day over there, and they still act like they don't see what you're doing.
Still ignoramus. You know, because they don't, the reason why they act like that, because they don't want to admit they're wrong. But one thing we can say about Jabari is he admitted he didn't know nothing about this language, and his wife know it better than him. Didn't he say that?
Right. Yeah.
And so you can't do nothing but respect that. But when you got people like Reggie and Smash Rockwell trying to convince our people, you know, this is a prime example of Noble Drew Ali said, one day your own brother gonna put you back in slavery.
Dang.
Noble Drew Ali said that. He said, Moors, one day your own brother's gonna put you back in slavery. And that's what's going on. Here I am trying to break them out from up under this European.
And they protecting us at every cost.
Protecting him, bro. They protecting
calling you pseudo.
Calling you pseudo. Yeah. Calling me
pseudo. Damn symbols never had nothing to do with the people way before that.
Yeah. And claiming to be like what they call themselves Pan-Africanists and all that food.
Right.
How? Sway? You know what I mean? Look at this. This is the original letter right here. How can you not see that this was created from the letter, Jude?
Great.
Huh? Man, these dudes insane. You know, just like lastly, like I say, because I say I was going to close this demonstration out. Lastly, he tried to bring this back up. Like he had did something.
He did what?
Like he had did something.
Yeah, well, that was his first round. That's why I said his first round was horrible.
Remember, I exposed this guy, even on this particular demonstration. Remember that?
Yeah.
When I showed that he didn't put the right letter up there.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, how many times I gotta keep doing this to you, Smash,
Oh man.
until you get it? And you up here telling, man, I ain't finna debate Keith. Bro, that's a cop-out. You want to make it look like you more superior than what I'm bringing, you know, because I ain't getting up here playing no games with the language and getting up here telling you that the hieroglyphics is pictures.
Right.
All the people that follow that foolishness is people that want to basically go behind what E. Wallace Budge and them brought up and they created, bro. You know, and like I showed them earlier, bro, this is Horror Apollo work right here. And everything that he described and he broke down was metaphysics and allegory. This was long before
And he was the
Champollion,
last. And he was the last priest.
last Egyptian priest, long before Champollion them. Look at that. It was this whole text was translated out of Greek, by the way, too, as they say. They call it Greek, but we know it's he copied. So that lets you know this ain't just some writing of a book. This is
He said that those are metaphysical symbols.
Yes, sir. Look at this. He telling you about the soul right here. Listen to this. He ain't talking about this as no alphabet. He said how they indicate the soul. Moreover, the hawk is put forth for the soul from the significance of its name. For among Egyptians, the hawk is called Ba'ath.
Mm-hmm.
And this name in decomposition signifies soul and heart. For the word Ba is the soul and Eth the heart. And the heart, according to the Egyptians, is the shrine of the soul. It says so that it is in its composition, the name signifies soul enshrined in heart. Whence also the hawk from its correspondence with soul never drinks water, but blood, by which also the soul is sustained. Huh? Man, Horror Apollo was cold-blooded with it. You see how he just did that demonstration out of the straight metaphysics?
Right.
He didn't tell you that represented a letter or alphabet. He telling you it represent people, places, and things. You feel me?
So what they saying the hawk represent?
So they'll go and tell you that the heart is,
A hawk.
something broke down in letters.
No, was it a hawk?
No, they won't say that. They'll say they got a symbol for the heart, which is supposed to be a heart indeterminate.
No, I said a hawk. You said hawk up there, right?
Yeah, the hawk. What I'm saying is, this is.
I'm saying what?
Huh?
What do they use to represent the hawk?
What do they use? They use the letter A to represent the hawk. See? You'll see it right here. And they say, oh. They say that's where they get their sound from. See it right here. See the hawk in the letter A? See,
Right.
you see, I called it out off my head without going here, right? Because I know all this stuff here by heart too, right, Junior? You know that, right? That's why when he called me to try to translate it, so-called, I can do that garbage that he doing. You know, but that ain't how it go. I'm gonna give you a prime example. Just looking at this right here, right? This here, this is how they would translate this right here, right? This is supposed to be mirror, according to them. M and R, right? Mirror. This would be pyramid, which is also mirror, right? So they would say this is a determinative, and this is signifying what is spoken of here, mirror. And you see another R right here. They'll say, this is not R. This is actually the letter T or D. You see? And then they'll go up here and say, this is the where this represent life. That ain't an alphabet. The jet pillar ain't an alphabet.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I'm just going through this to show you I know that they talk about netter. You know, they'll talk about this symbol as being the letter jet. These are determinative. This would be the letter B. If Kemetian don't know how to do that garbage that they be doing, how is Kemetian ever to tell you? Let me show you what I'm saying. This is the script right here beside it. I just told you that this was the letter. Hold up. Here's the letter B, they say, right? Now, they would call this the letter B. You know, that's the same one they use. You know, this one they don't have in here. but I can go and show this to you on my in my actual tool. You know, so all of these particular things, like they would say this represent the letter R, you know, or the letter L, the open mouth symbol. See it right here? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. I can do that garbage, what they be doing, bro. I used to be on that. That's what I keep telling these clowns. But I know better. I learned better. See, they did it here. They actually put a hieroglyphic alphabet together, you know, and closely based it on the Egyptian. I mean, yeah, they put an alphabet and put it there close to the English alphabet. See what I'm saying? You know, so this is crazy, man, to keep having to go back over the same stuff again. You know, when I done showed them clearly here, Judah, this was a death blow in this document where I just showed all this hieratic papyri right here. I don't know if you was here, but I was showing it to them. Look at that. It's the original Book of the Dead now. Do you see any writing, picture writing going on there?
You don't see it.
No, sir.
Man.
You got illustrations up there of people doing things, but that is not picture writing.
They ain't gonna tell you nothing, them little pictures.
That's what I'm trying to tell you. And so all this hieratic papyri, why y'all ain't been teaching this in the Kemetic community? You ain't never seen this displayed in no Kemetic by no Kemetic community. Have you, Judah?
Nope.
Have you ever seen them display this and teach this? Look at that. Now, I just showed you in the Chester-Beatty papyri, hieratic papyri. They said that hieratic papyri outnumber what they call the so-called hieroglyphics, bro, 3 to 1. It's more hieratic papyri than it is so-called Egyptian papyri. The way that they talking about it. Look at that. And then when we do get down here to what they call a so-called picture right, watch what happens. When we get to this, we find out this was done by the Ptolemies. So what they have comes straight from the Ptolemies, Judah. Look at that.
Right.
All that's Ptolemaic. How you know that, Brother Kemetian? I'm finna show you in a second, right here. Watch this. When I get down to the bottom where it go to giving the description on this stuff. This is the Book of the Dead written in Ptolemaic hieroglyphs, basically. When I showed you the original ones were written in hieratic. And you know the Book of the Dead is really compiled, Judah, of different spells that wasn't even a part of, you know, even the same books that they was just took from all over the place and put together. And that's what them scholars were saying in that book that come from Chicago, the University of Chicago. They said this stuff was just compiled from our imagination. Look at where they say this papyri come from. Ptolemaic Roman period, 100 BC and 200. This is the first book of breathing.
Book of what?
The book of breathing.
Book of breathing. Huh?
Yeah. And they come behind the Book of the Dead, but all that stuff is written in the language they be trying to deal with. So I done proved again that they dealing with Ptolemaic hieroglyphs. Anytime you see them trying to decipher that type of stuff right there, it's from Ptolemaic hieroglyphs, bro. Look at that. It just told you where they got it from. So of course, according to Ptolemy's decipherment under Champollion, you can say what you want to say. But that don't mean that's what the ancient Egyptians said. You feel me? And again, I close and rest my case with this statement, Judah, and I want you to see this. And I'm going to send this document over to you so you can vet it yourself. Right. Listen to what they say. They say, when all of the above is taken into consideration, I quote, it is clear that answering the question, what is the Book of the Dead, is very different from answering the question, what was the Book of the Dead? In many ways, the Book of the Dead is a modern construction of our imagination.
Damn. Damn.
Okay. So it says,
so it's a modern construction of what? So wait, why they say the Book of the Dead is a modern construction of our imagination?
That's what they tell you. Watch, they're gonna say this is why they say it. They're gonna tell you why they say it. Our conceptions are dictated by the way we categorize the text.
Ooh.
And how we privilege particular formats and papyri.
Damn.
What we see as the ultimate purpose and even what name we give to the ancient compositions.
Oh no.
Now watch this. Oh, it get worse. It
Wait,
says,
wait. So they said they put the Book of the Dead together, and this is their
yeah,
thoughts.
yeah.
Oh
And
man.
now
So
watch
there's no.
what
So wait. So there's no ancient Book of the Dead.
no what it is. They saying what they found. They compiled what they found, and they called it what they want to call it.
They want to
Based on
call it that.
interpretation.
So therefore,
And
probably didn't even call the Book of the Dead, huh?
they even said it ain't supposed to be called the Book of the Dead. They said the
Oh
word
man.
book is not proper because they wasn't a
What the
codex.
hell's going on, man?
They said it was not a codex, Judah. They said it was bound together in mostly papyri. So a
Black
papyri
Line
is
Supreme?
a book, right?
Black Line Supreme, you ain't tell me about this.
Now watch what it say, Judah. Listen to what it say. Watch this. Watch this. This gonna really blow them out the water. It says what we see as the ultimate purpose. It says, and even what we name to the ancient, name we give to the ancient compositions. In most of these cases, our conceptual apparatus for discussing, right? For discussing and understanding this material is radically different than that of the ancient Egyptians themselves.
Damn.
God almighty.
Radically different.
Huh? Now, don't that support what I just said about the Ptolemies?
Yep. But you can read that to them 1,000 times, Kemetian, they still say, where you saw it.
Hold up, Judah, watch this. In some ways, this is inevitable. But it is important to keep in mind the different perspectives. Our modern concepts can help us articulate our advances in interpretation, but they can also mislead us into misinterpretations.
Hey.
Applying intentions, messages, or conclusions that never existed in the ancient mind.
See, now we just playing. See, now we just playing kickball with your head and got cut off, man. That's all we doing back and forth. It's over.
This ain't no random book, Judah. This ain't no random. This is from the University of Chicago. This is from the Egyptians, the people who control this.
Man, from the university out there in Egypt?
From the University of Chicago. And I use this because they said, and they giving you here, look at the main topic in here. What is the Book of the Dead? The origins of the early development of the Book of the Dead. They give you that history. Peter F. Norman. Language and the script in the Book of the Dead. And then it's showing you all of it is hieratic. They even say that in this book. They say all the script that's produced in this book, bro, is hieratic, is the original Book of the Dead, bro. So if that's the case, what are they talking about?
I don't have no clue.
Now look right here. I'm gonna show this. I showed this earlier, and we're gonna
you notice when they reading them symbols, they never tell you what the whole paragraph means. Or like it's no teachings from it.
It's no teaching from it.
They don't teach people off the wall for.
They don't even know the sabate teachings, bro.
Right.
They don't even know the sabate teaching. Now watch this, Judah. This is a so-called timeline. Right? So the teaching of the Book of Merari would have come from this kingdom, the old kingdom, right? It says the oldest book in the world next to the Papyri of Prissy, right? They both come out of the same era. Right. Now your Ptolemaic book come way out of here. Because they say the Rosetta Stone is a dictionary they use to translate the ancient text. How, Sway? When you originated the Rosetta Stone during this period, it didn't exist.
Right.
It's going to exist a whole nother dictionary based on your rules to interpret something that come way from back during this kingdom.
That makes no sense.
It makes sense.
Right.
Make it make sense now.
You can't.
You know, so that's all I got to say in regards to dealing with this. For those who don't know, these are all your scholars here that put their measures up here. Look, Yakatira Barbarus, Emily Cole, Peter F. Dorman, Hagla Kaku, Andrea, and all of these people really were speaking on the same subject and came to the same conclusion in one holistic document. Only reason I quoted this is because they say Kemetian source is too ancient. And how about in this source, they quote the sources that I quote on my own research, Judah. The same stuff that I was quoting earlier in them first books before I went to this, they quote that material in here, bro.
Bro, you got to show the people his third round, man. How he cried through the whole third round.
That's what I want to show. You know,
then we end this, Kareem.
we'll end it. But I just want
But
to
this third round, I mean, just throw that final third round. That was horrible.
yeah, I'm gonna show it to him.
Show his 7 minutes and show yours. I mean, he cried through the whole third round complaining about Kemetian's second round.
Hold up real quick. Trying to see here. Okay, let me get this here. I want to open up a fresh page real quick. Okay, here we go.
All right.
I want to see if this thing right here worked too, real quick, to see if it because it's going a little quicker now. I want to see if this clip, not this clip, but I want to see if where's my history at. Okay, let's see here. I want to for some reason I hadn't been able to. Oh, don't want to do that. I haven't been able to show this thing. This is very important. 1 second here. Okay, here it is right here. Notice it says primary source too, Judah. Okay, yeah, it's gonna show it this time, I believe. Come on. For some reason, it is not letting me show that thing on. Almost like they got a bug in here. How is letting me play that? But when you get a chance, Judah, I want you to get this here. This is a primary source from the Diary of Merari, 2013. Okay. They call it the Red Sea Scroll. This was found during the same era when the Papyri Persei was on the manifest. And this is talking about the laborer who took place in building the pyramid. But his particular document was written in hieratic before the pyramids were built. So that shows you how ancient, the Papyri of Merari is, the Red Sea Scroll. So let me go out of here. Let me go out of here and play this scenario because it ain't letting me play that. I don't know why it won't let me play that, bro. Every time I go in here, it won't let me play that video. That's definitely some mojo right there. So let me show you this demonstration here. Come on, man. It may be because I got too much stuff open too. Because you see, I got 2 whole pages open. Okay, here we go. Okay, let me go back to. All right, now don't you close down. It's saying my Google Chrome ain't responding. Okay. I believe it's my internet connection need to be reset.
Okay.
Hold up. Just give me a second here, though. I believe I'm going to be able to play this video. Let's see. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to just X that demonstration out and open up a new tab. God almighty. Rome ain't built nothing to last, Judah. You hear me?
Yeah, I feel you. Yeah.
Hold up. Come on, man. I'm going to close that tab out. Y'all ain't going to even let me close it out.
You get too much on there.
Yeah, you see it all up there? Okay, now we're going to reopen the page. Let me see what my internet connection doing down here. It looks stable. Connect. Let's see.
Okay.
Okay, it's reconnected now. Let's see how it runs now. Okay, now let me open up. Yeah, you see how it's opening up now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here we go. I should have did that before then. Still got a little delay, but I know it's gonna open up. Come on. I got to clean this joker out is what I got to do. I done put so much information in my computer, it's bogging down real bad now.
Right.
Okay. Now let us go to. Are you on a computer or a phone, Jude?
Phone.
Come on, man. Okay, let's see what happens.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Cosmic Wonder, where we talk all things Marvel and
I just can go into everything but what you actually go into, don't it?
Did you fix it?
Yeah, I did. I went and hit it. Okay, let's see now. It looked like it's flowing a little better now, like it done caught up.
If you don't read Metal Nature, you're going to start with the process of counting and matching
Let's go
symbols.
to the third round, like you said up here. Come on. All right. Come on. And then you see your boy and them got involved.
Egyptian intervention here, what we can call.
I don't think I went too far.
You ain't playing?
Yeah, I may end up having to buy a whole new dang on computer playing with it.
Yeah.
Let me see here. Okay. I think I'm gonna just do a deep clean on it. Hold up real quick. Let me see where that start us at. Yeah, it's tripping.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and
I want to hold us up. That thing will not catch. That's crazy.
let's go ahead and wrap it up, Kemetian. I know Kareem probably get tired. I'm getting a little tired
Yeah,
myself.
yeah. I was supposed to close it out at 12:45. You know.
Okay.
Yeah, I just responded when you came up here.
Yeah,
I was
right.
getting ready
I feel
to
you.
close it down then. But
Okay.
yeah, that's what we'll do, bro. I'm gonna have to get this thing and clean it up because I can't have it doing this here. This is ridiculous. I ain't never had my computer, and I'm gonna be honest with you, my phone doing the same thing, bro. You know what I mean? So ain't no telling. It may be a Roman infiltration going on here. To be honest with you, all my apparatuses ain't acting right.
Okay.
Mine's been the same way.
You ever been the same way too, Kareem?
Yeah.
This ain't right. You know what it may be too, though? It may be the storm. Because I'm down here in the Florida area. It may be something messing with the satellites. You know what I mean?
Right.
Okay, so it came on as soon as I cut the dag blasted thing off. Yeah, we gonna go. That's crazy.
Huh?
Anyway,
And if anybody out here know the Metal Nature, they can already.
All of a sudden. You see that?
Yeah.
Yeah, now it want to act like it want to work. Yeah, they playing. Yeah, what we're going to do, we're going to close this demonstration now. I'm going to X this on out and stop sharing my screen. And we'll get back at it another time. I'm going to clean this computer up and see if that helped me out a little bit more. But I want to give honor to y'all, family, you know, for just aid and assisting. You know, and I dropped this link too in there in the box to Karima, dealing with the papyri of Maria, you know, if our family want to get it. So that's what it is, man. Shalom, Shabbat, Alahayim. You know, long live the dead. You know, and our teeth bloody right now. We've been shaking them.
Right,
Like
right, man. Yeah, you did a great job tonight, man. In preliminary, bro. 3 rounds of just shutting them down. I ain't being biased about it. I'm just telling you the truth. So, but you could come over there and tell them what you've been telling us for the last 2 hours, and it's like you just go past over their head, or they just don't want to accept it. Or just humble yourself, say you was wrong.
Yeah, they don't want to accept it, bro. But like I told them, they ain't gonna stop me from doing what I do. They can love that European all they want to. I'm on the way up. I ain't finna waste no more time going back and forth with them because they want to be right over having it. And really, it's ego. Like the sister, what her name said, it boiled down to the fact they don't want to hear what nobody else got to say. You know what I mean? A lot of it comes from, you know, ulterior motives, but it is what it is, brother.
Right.
You know, so peace and love, family. Gratitude and thank you for your listening ear. We're going to keep bringing this information to the public. While they try to bury it, I'm going to keep bringing it to the manifest because that's what Hierophants do. They reveal, they don't conceal nothing. Yes, sir.
All right, champ. Appreciate you putting on this demonstration tonight. Shalom, Sister Karima. We out of here.
Shalom.
Peace.
Shalom. Peace and love, Sister Karima.
Peace.